Alrighty guys, so it's a new day. Got another project I want to work on. Now this one's not ideal, I should say. We're going to be working on the truck here. Well, the reason why I say it's not ideal is because I'm not going to do this the right way. I'm going to do this the way that I can make this better for $0 and a temporary solution. Now, if you look at this U-joint here, you see the drive shaft angle. The drive shaft comes in almost level. It's only a few degrees lean down, and then my pinion is pointed very high upward. So that's bad on its own. But then when you take into account that this side, the transfer case is level to the frame rails, I should say, and then the drive shaft angles down some, that means that neither of these U-joints are going to be happy because they're actually working at equal similar angles when they need to be equal opposite angles. And then the worst part about it is I've got this big 5.5 inch or 5 inch lift block in the back here, and even though this is a 1-ton leaf spring back here, this axle has a lot of control over the leaf spring because of that big block, and it's made it to where whenever I'm under hard acceleration or torque, it actually rolls the nose of the pinion up higher, and that's why my caps look the way they do, where you see how it's mushroomed out here and there. Well, this one that's on the outside originally was on the inside. I turned these around because I've already damaged it once, and now I've damaged them again. And it's because the pinion rolls up, and then the inside of this drive shaft here collides with the caps on the pinion. So what I'm going to try to do, just as a temporary fix to try to prevent this from getting any worse, because this is doing a lot of damage. My drive shaft is permanently damaged. This piece needs to get replaced because this is deformed from slamming into here. The pinion yoke is getting damaged because the drive shaft, or the U-joint, has been pressing on the ears a little bit, and now the location studs are a little bit, you know, rounded off, I guess would be the best way to describe that. And these caps get stretched every time it hits. So now I've got a loose drive shaft in here because it keeps running into itself. So what I'm going to try to do today to try to make that better is I'm going to pull these blocks out and do one of two things. I'm going to either try to grind them to where they're completely square, because right now they're wedge shaped. The back is a little taller than the front. So either I'm going to try to grind them completely square and reinstall them like that so that it'll pull this nose down a bunch, or I will end up building a shim that goes underneath here to lift a little bit on the front end of this block so that I can roll the pinion back down. Also, my rear shock collides with the axle tube. That's how rolled upward this axle is. So the reason why it's rolled up the way it is because if this had a stock drive shaft in it and a stock transfer case, it would actually need the pinion to be pointed up super far to keep the drive shafts running relatively true. But since it's a really big lift on a relatively low transfer case, these, you know, general aftermarket all-purpose blocks are overcorrecting by a lot. I've already measured, they're about a 1/2 inch taller in the rear than they are in the front. So that's why I'm thinking I might be able to get away with maybe a little bit of grinding. Or what I'm actually going to try first and foremost is I'm going to try to just turn them around and see what that does. But I suspect that that's going to be too much. So let's get to it. wasn't very tight. Scared me a little. This is just a quick and dirty test fit. I see a couple problems right off the bat with this. One, the whole axle got scooted backwards in the rear end here. So we're no longer centered in our wheel well. And two, by the time that leaf spring compresses, it's going to swing so far down that it's going to be wrong. Because right now, it's like almost exactly where I'd want it, maybe a little low. Once we put the weight on it, all bets are off. But let's go ahead and watch it anyways. Alright, all the weight's off the frame, or off the jack stands. Yep, everything off the truck's weighted down as if it were going down the road. Let's grab our level and see what we did. So, I've got this digital level and we're going to use it. We're going to check that side, then we're going to check this side and see if it's close. Okay, so over here says .8, 0.9, 88. So we're going with 88. So it's 2 degrees out of square. Let's see what the other side says. Which I can tell you right now, I see a lot more spline on that than I ever used to see. We really messed with our drive shaft length there. I'm going to go as far as to pull these caps off because I have to pull them off anyways to repair the straps and try to get things somewhat tightened up under here. And then we'll level it off of those because that's about the most accurate way you can do it. Actually, I think right here is a flat spot that's machined in the casting so that you can see true pinion angle off of that. We'll give that a check before we do anything. And it says it is about 1.7 degrees, which if that's true, that's actually fantastic. That's like right where we want to be angle wise. Because once you torque the suspension a little bit, it'll go right to the 2 degrees that you generally want. But let's go ahead and yank these caps off and measure from the front. I don't know what the deal is with that, because that drive shaft should have moved really easily, but it's not. I'm gonna tap it with the hammer, see if maybe it's a length problem. Maybe it's too short now, which I really hope that's not the case. That is not moving. But it's one of those things, like they say on Roadkill, doing the wrong thing for the right reasons, or the wrong thing the right way, or something like that. But now we've got that out. Let's check it again with our level. So that says 86.7, 86.8. So we're about 1 degree down is what it sounds like from the other one, which that's fine. I'm okay with that. That's a lot better than like 5 degrees up or whatever it used to be. Problem is I still don't trust I don't trust that my wheels are going to fit into my wheel wells anymore, because now the axle is scooted back so far because of reversing that wedge. Let me get you off the tripod very quick. I want to show you. Look at the end of this drive shaft here. If I can get it where you can see it. I don't know how well you can tell with the lighting, but all through the bottom of this U-joint cap is destroyed. That one's bent real bad right there. We come up into the pinion here, and you see we've got a little bit of scarring on the inside of that tab. We spin it around. This one is really badly scarred. So, and then here's the caps up close. We've got both sides are squished. And then in here is a weld bead that I ran the last time that this happened to thicken up this cap, because I just needed it to work. The other cap's a little further away. Let me grab it. So here's the other cap. Looks the same way, squished with the weld bead inside, and this one I had to run a lot more weld on, and it's still got stretched and got loosey. So that's what we're gonna test fit the wheels, see if they fit like this. If they do, then we're gonna set the U-bolts the right way and put it back together. It's not perfect, but I think we're okay. I think that's drivable. I'm going to disassemble the drive shaft next to make sure it can handle being this far away, though. Because that's another thing that block has to correct for that I didn't think about, is as you lift the truck, the axle has to scoot forward too, because the arch of the spring. So it was moving it forward. Now that I've turned it around, it's actually moving it back. This is not a good side to represent off of because of all that damage right there. Let's check the other side. Sadly, I can't stand as far back on this side to check, but yeah, it's obviously like an inch or two. It's like 2 inches shifted rearward, or an inch moved backwards. So let's look at this drive shaft and see what we can figure out. I know, the neighbor's cutting their grass now. It's not fantastic, but I'm not worried about it. I don't think that that's going to fall out anytime soon, because we had that axle drooped all the way out and readjusted without taking this apart. So I think that with it back up in the truck the way it, actually, let's leave this loose. With it back up in the truck the way it's supposed to be, and the fact that I find the likelihood of me drooping this axle out next to none, I think we'll be okay for now. So we're gonna move on to tightening down our U-bolts. I know it's loud right now, but I got my U-bolts tightened back down. Everything's looking pretty good. Actually gonna go and give that one a second torque here in a minute, because I'm gonna scoot over its U-bolt. So I gotta tighten that one back down again. Pinion angle does look a lot better like that. I'm gonna try to clean this up a little. All right, we're gonna take these over to the bench, and we're gonna weld on them some more. Actually, for starters, we're gonna just put one in to hold the drive shaft in location. I'm going to stick this towel behind the U-joint cap so that it takes up some of the space and helps really pull it into position, so that when I go to test fit the other one, I can make sure everything's where it should be. Alright. I think what I'm going to start by doing is I'm just going to try to pinch it in the vise to lay it a little flat and see if that will do it. I'm lying. I'm going to weld it. Alright. So I ran a little weld through the inside there, and then I polished it back to make it a little fatter. It's terrible. What I'm doing is terrible. Do not do this. This is, I'm broke, and I need to get this working better, is what I'm doing. Do not do this. The only reason I'm considering this is because it seems like every time I drive the truck, I do more damage than good. So if I do this, I might be able to get it to stop damaging itself. Oh man. This one's real bad. This one you can see a lot of light through it. So I'll make a note of that. Same procedure, a little weld, grind it back. I ground it back too far. We'll put a little bit more in there. I hate that. Alright. Hey! That's what drive shafts are supposed to do. I've never had that. I mean, I've had it, but only for brief periods of time. So, I've got a major concern right now, and I'm going to show you. You see the spline hanging out of this? Well, that's probably about a third of it. So we've got about 2/3 worth of spline left in here, and even then, 2/3. This is the thick part. This is just threads. This is actually where the work's getting done. So only about a third of that is actually up in here. For driving around town and the way I generally use this truck, which is pretty light duty, I wouldn't be too terribly concerned about it. What I don't like is the idea of, if I ever need to use it like a truck, this becomes a problem. Now, this is the most temporary fix I will show on this channel because I do not want this axle set up like this. I'm going to be switching this truck over to air ride, and in the process, everything that I just did will get taken out and thrown away. I just really need that to be clear, that this is not a permanent solution by any means, and hopefully this will be taken out and thrown away within the course of just a few months. That's the plan. It's just a matter of I gotta get a little money together to get the project going. So for beating around town and just driving it to drive it, this is probably okay. Would I ever recommend this to somebody? No, definitely not. What I am going to do is I'm going to jack the back of the truck up and then droop out the rear suspension to see if this falls out. Because if it does fall out, game over, I'm not doing it. I'm coming up with a new plan. So, let's see what happens. Okay, that's interesting. Not what I was actually, it is. It makes sense to me. So, those splines tucked in deeper. That's because when the leaf springs went down, they pivoted forward and swung the whole axle forward in the truck on the front bushing of the leaf spring. So that makes sense. So I trust that it's not going to pull my axle out or pull my drive shaft apart with the suspension cycling. But I still don't love it. So I might start working on a plan to correct that in a minute here. But for right now, I'm going to wrap this part up and take a break, wash up, and think about it. So either I'm done, so thanks for watching, or I'm not done. And I'll see you in a second.